It's 9 a.m. in the morning and the least likable man you know has just locked into the New York Stock Exchange. New York's finest, and I'm not talking about what he's doing in the company bathroom. He's seeing things switch up on the market. Like, what, is that an Estival ready to be picked up on the market? Yeah, get me involved, mate. Chalaba held on to that stock for about 2 weeks. Let me sell that on now. Strasbourg Limited Enterprises. I'm gonna cop all the young players from there, sell them back with an 8% APR interest rate before loaning them to Czechoslovakia. This is genuinely how Todd Boehly and Clear Lake seem to approach Chelsea Football Club. The Blues, for the last few years since Todd Boehly took over control of the club, have been the most volatile and least stable club in the entire division. And Manchester United are literally right there for the taking. More ins and outs than a brothel past 10 p.m. There has been a constant revolving door of players, staff, and other personnel at Stamford Bridge. But after a great start to the season and winning the Club World Cup, things look like they were on the up. Yet a disastrous December has left them floundering and now 10 points off the side they were defeated by in Aston Villa this week. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Chelsea experience. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing out an old favourite. Mentally unstable and alcoholic dependent Narin is in the place. It's been a while, honestly, and it's been a while since I've talked about Chelsea like this, to be honest with you. I'm gonna address the elephant in the room. There's a high chance this video could have aged badly by the time that you're even watching it. Chelsea are about to play AFC Bournemouth, yeah, and that is like a stoppable force meeting an extremely movable object when it comes to general December form. But either way, even going into that game, we've got to address something at Chelsea. Whilst things don't look too bad if you're just looking at the Premier League table, right? Especially given our predictions, our expectations. Fifth in the league isn't the worst spot for a Chelsea side to be in after their last couple of seasons. They found themselves back in the Champions League this campaign after finishing 4th in the league last time around. A vast jump after the 23-24 campaign where they finished down in 6th position, securing only a Conference League spot after a good end to the season. And Jesus Christ, even that was a crazy jump after the dark days of mid-table under the likes of Graham Potter. Things have been steadily progressing for Chelsea up to the last month. I mean, look at the league table. They're behind us, fam. Do you know how bad we are at take up new sports? But 2 months ago, because of how bad Liverpool were, and the 3 points behind us, it's crazy right now. If this league had any competent people below 3rd at all, Chelsea would be in real dire straits after the month they've just had. They are 10 points off Aston Villa. The epitome, really, of the antithesis of what Chelsea are. Bro, I'm way too licked to be saying words like this, you know. This is Narin speaking right now. With the sunglasses, I've got to chill out for a second. They're the antithesis, yeah, of what Chelsea have been doing in terms of recruitment, in terms of stability recently. 10 points off Villa, 13 points off Arsenal. The league title, it's a wrap. They were unbeaten in November. Tragically, they became overbeaten in December. They were just beaten in December. It's been a real dark month. And I'm not talking about the sun going down at approximately 1:27 p.m. I'm saying that this has been a month of disaster classes. It started with a 3-1 defeat, of course, to Leeds, then a 0-0 draw to Bournemouth. They got beaten in the Champions League by Atalanta. A quick reprieve came with wins against Everton, then Cardiff City in the EFL Cup quarterfinals, before they then drew against Newcastle and lost to Villa as well. That is 2 wins in total this month and 1 win in the league. Blues fans are going to be even more depressed when they realise there's still another game of this godforsaken month left to go. To be fair, Barcelona fans, they're tuning in to this 8-watch, yeah, because after you smoked them 3-0 in the Champions League, they're leaving it with something. Ronald Araujo's been cleared of his crimes. I just don't understand, yeah, how this can all happen. After that game against Arsenal, down to 10 men, they draw 1-1 with then the best club in the country. I mean, they're still the best club in the country, they're top of the league, but they have been a little bit more shaky recently. You know, I'm a little bit worried. They've had their lead cut down a little bit, but that there and then was seen as like, that was a great, unbelievable scoreline. And now look at where we are. I've seen the light. I've seen the light, guys. They're actually better with 10 men. They completely capitulate when they have the normal regulatory amount of footballers on a pitch. Maresca's starting to lose it with this entire football club when we see what he's doing in the gym. And you know what it is? I'm not surprised when he looks around the dressing room, because I think the worst part, right, probably of being a Chelsea fan these days has got to be the fact that if someone's stinking up the gaff, that is your life till like 2037, bro. The contracts that are dished out to these dons are insane. I imagine being a Chelsea fan, yeah, and then you realize that you've got to deal with Alejandro Garnacho in 1v1 situations for like another 11 years. The kid was useless against Aston Villa, just constantly coming back, never putting the ball into the box or taking on an already yellow carded Matty Cash. And let's talk about the Aston Villa game in a bit more detail, because the crazy thing, yeah, I'm beefing Chelsea for how bad they've been in December. This is one of the best halves of football they put together all season. Chelsea were amazing in the first half against Aston Villa. They probably should have been like 3-0 up. They wasted opportunities. They weren't clinical in positions where they needed to be. Again, in wide areas, things broke down so much. I don't think Pedro Neto's been half bad this season, but he was frustrating. I think Garnacho has been like half bad and then also another half bad on top of that. And yeah, he was doing the same frustrating foolishness again. They didn't take the chances, and you can't do that against Aston Villa because you know that they're going to score 2 goals against you from a combined XG total of -4. You've got to score when you get the opportunity. You have to, because they're going to punish you for things that aren't even your fault. Cole himself was frustrated when he came off, substituted at what? Was he substituted at 1-1 or maybe even whilst Chelsea were losing? I can't remember, but like that in itself makes no sense. The fact that Enzo Maresca's managed to make Cole Palmer look like his school qualifications as well, after being like one of the best players in the league a couple of years ago, is nuts. He's still Cole Palmer, don't get it twisted, but the output is not there. And Cole Palmer, based on his first season at Chelsea, yeah, should have like kicked on now and should be top 5 players like in the league based on performance and goal contributions, right? And yeah, here we are. They can't get anything out of him now. To be honest, it's not massively helped by Chelsea's defense, fam. As soon as they feel even 7 grams of pressure, they're distracted at the back post whilst things are happening. Toes in the centre back, yeah? How about you put your toes in to a good challenge at some stage in your life? Because he shouldn't be a Chelsea. I'm so sorry, yeah, he was good at Fulham. He shouldn't be a Chelsea footballer. Like, how have we ended up in a timeline? How has Chelsea devolved as a club where Tosin is starting games? Benoit Badiashile, I don't think is good enough either. Like, to go on title challenges. I know, again, this wasn't necessarily what was expected of Chelsea, but it's what should be expected of Chelsea as an organisation. I just find it fascinating. These lot have spent, what, 2 billion quid under Clearlake, and one injury at centre-back has completely capitulated them into the shit. Like, Levi Colwill being out, de Calas. That's it now. Nobody at the back can defend competently and consistently. Has anyone actually seen Raheem Sterling since August, by the way? We might have to put out a missing persons report soon. And that's the crazy thing, yeah. Guys, I'm gonna get Chelsea's squad up, yeah. And I know, look, I'm not gonna go through Chelsea's squad and say, oh, how does Raheem Sterling fit in the dressing room? We've all done this shit before, okay? We all know there's loads of players, but I just need to highlight some guys who are still at the club that you genuinely might have forgotten about. I'm not saying this is like even a way to say, yeah, Chelsea is shit or whatever, but it highlights a recruitment issue that I'm gonna talk about now. You can't just ignore this shit, because it's, fam, I have to scroll down to see the full page on Wikipedia. That doesn't even make, I've never even seen that before. So obviously you got Robert Sanchez has actually picked it up this season. Mark Kukulé has been amazing at left back. You got people like Levi Colwill, who when he's fit is great, but he's been injured. Wesley Fofana's back now and looks class at centre-back. I like Malo Gusto. You got youngsters like Tyreek George and Josh Achimpong that have come through recently. Reece James is fit now. Caicedo and Enzo are obviously great. But I don't understand how you look at some of these names that are already at the club and go, yeah, now we need Jamie Gittins, fam. We actually need that guy, bro. We need Garnacho and Gittins. Like, that has to happen. Dario Esugo was not needed. He does not need to be at training. He could work from home and this club would be the exact same thing as it is now. Facundo Buonanotte is on loan from Brighton. To do what? To serve what purpose? I don't think he was even included in the Champions League squads. And don't get it twisted, I think it's good to have depth in certain areas. Moises Caicedo being unfit or being suspended at a point, and then you can bring on, well, you can play Reece James in midfield if you want to, but also Andre Santos is great. I thought when Andre Santos had his little cameo, I thought he was amazing, or at least pretty decent, looked good, looked strong. He was great at Strasbourg last season, yeah? That makes sense. Having guys like Esteval on the bench you can bring on is sick, yeah? But you don't need Buonanotte, I've got to say read that one again. There's an other players under contract section, which is where you'll find Raheem Sterling and Axel Disasi. There's then an under 21 section, which is where you'll find David Washington, who's been at the club since Washington, D.C. was even created. Denzel Washington is the younger Washington out of this situation. That's how long he's been there. And then you've got the on-loan players like Mike Penders, who's back at Strasbourg, like Anselmino at Borussia Dortmund, who they signed like in the last 12 months. Mamadou Sarr, Amari Kellyman, Kendry Paez, David Fofana, Nicholas Jackson. And they've still got more players on the way. You know, they've got Omega, who's coming in from Strasbourg soon. I assume 7 other players signing from Strasbourg. Todd Boehly cannot help himself when he sees a group of 15-year-olds frolicking around somewhere in eastern Ecuador. There's been more rebuilds here than the Jenga World Championships, bro. I'm starting to think that signing 47 players per capita every window isn't the way to go about this. For what it's worth, Chelsea have been a pretty decent selling club. They've managed to reinvest some money out of the crazy amount of players that they've signed, you know, like they've done a decent job at getting a lot of players off the books, because it could have been a lot worse. Like, I'm listing some names there. I'm talking to you about like an overbloated team. It could be worse based on the amount of players that they've signed. So I'll give them their credit, yeah. They've done a decent job in selling players, right? But the crazy thing about this is Enzo Maresca still isn't happy with his squad, clearly based on the comments that he made a week or so ago when he was saying like, this is the worst 2 days that I've ever had being at Chelsea and I need more support from the board. That can only mean one thing. It doesn't mean that he wants them to come to his birthday party. It means that he wants more players. He needs more signings. And the crazy thing is, he does. If he wants to take Chelsea to a league champion, you know, to a title race, or he wants to secure them in the Champions League, because then, you know, they're 5th at the moment, so they are Champions League technically, right? Now that there's the extra spot. But if he wants to cement them as a team that should be finishing 3rd, 4th easily, he does need reinforcements. There are great players at this club that you should be building around, you know, that they, like, again, Cole Palmer, Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Reece James, now that he's actually like fit for more than 3 weeks at a time. But a lot of the rest of the squad, you could say, actually just kind of isn't good enough. They're perennially almost good enough, like almost there to do what you want them to do as a Chelsea fan, to get the results that they need. They're almost good enough, and they have been now for like 3 years. But the problem is they sell players and then replace them with guys that are either the exact same quality level or actually maybe even worse. Like, what are we doing? Like Jackson to Delap. That's a downgrade. I know, I suppose Joao Pedro is kind of leading the line half the time, but if you're going to play Delap as the number 9, so far what we have seen of Liam Delap at Chelsea, and he might need a bit more time, but Nicholas Jackson was better objectively and is better now. Like, he still is. You could still get more bang for your buck if you just kept Nicholas Jackson in the first place. You know, selling Madueke, replacing him with Gittins. Madueke's better than Gittins. It feels like there's so many of these, like Garnacho is starting. Garnacho, who wasn't even really fancied at Manchester United, who finished 15th in the league last season, and Garnacho starting for Chelsea, who are aiming to, you know, certainly be in the top 4, but if anything, try and push on soon to be involved in a title race, because that's where Chelsea should probably be. It doesn't make sense. It's all well and good doing the whole buying young players, bringing them through, selling players on, and this kind of this rotation system. The squad's actually got to get better, though. The squad has to get a little bit better, and it did. It did get better from the first couple of years, but it's mostly just because the players grew up. To be honest with you, they were so young at the start. There was no real leader, no cohesive unit to like take them to the next level. Graham Potter wasn't the manager to do the job either. They only just arrived. This was a full squad of people that had never met. Their different languages and that. No one can hold a 3-minute conversation in the canteen. Now that they've actually gelled, there's some cohesion, they're better, but they still need some better players around them. And for the amount of money they've spent and the amount of signings they've made over the last couple of years, that's a problem. That doesn't fall on the manager. That doesn't fall on the players necessarily, but I think the manager's got to take a little bit of accountability too. I think his substitutions are weird. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt a little bit because he wasn't actually on the touchline against Villa. Caballero was, but I assume they were still Maresca's substitutions. They're some of the worst substitutions I've seen a manager make, like, in the last 3 years, bro. They were terrible. They lost him the game in comparison to Unai Emery's, who won him the game. Maresca does this sometimes. Maresca's substitutions are pretty consistently bad at times. Consistently bad at times, by the way, doesn't make sense. I realize that. I'm gonna call myself out on that one. And there's also like selection issues with Maresca as well. Like, first of all, again, substitutions, they're bad just generally. It also feels like he kind of does them because he needs to fill a quota sometimes. Like, not every game you have to actually make 5 subs. But then also, there's certain players that don't play, and I'm like, why are you... Like, he'll drop a player for a game because he needs to rest them for the next one. But, like, just go out and win the first game. You're like, again, you're not a fitness coach. You don't have to, like, obviously, yes, balance people's playing times. He probably wouldn't have to balance playing time so disastrously if he didn't have so many fucking players to keep happy. But there's certain blaring ones, like, Why is Esteval not starting? Esteval's amazing. Esteval like slapped up Barcelona on his own, kind of, and he's not starting a game against Aston Villa in the Prem. Just run it, see what happens. He started the season amazingly. There's certain elements there, but I honestly do think there's a lot of discourse amongst Chelsea fans as to whether Maresca should stay, whether he's good enough for the job. If you want me to be honest, I don't think he's the man to take Chelsea forward. I don't think he is. I'm not gonna lie, I think he's giving Arteta at the start a little bit, you know, that sort of vibe, and we didn't know if Arteta was the man at the start, and then he's gone on and flourished again. Hasn't really got the silverware that he should probably have at this point, but Arsenal in a much better position than they were when he took over, and a decent chunk of that is down to his management and his defensive tactics and all that jazz, right? I just think, personally, with the amount of chopping and changing that constantly happens at Chelsea, there needs to be some level of stability for longer than like an 8-month period, because there isn't. There actually isn't. There's constantly some element of Chelsea's squad, backroom staff, coaching, or management that changes over like a 12-month period, and it's always like serious gravity behind the situation. So that's just me, personally. Look, if things go catastrophically and he's 9th at, midway through February, then I understand. Or if you finish in the league 7th come the end of the season, and then fairs. But I just think Chelsea as a whole entity need just a smidgen of stability at some point in time. He's still got to step up. His substitutions have got to be better. But Chelsea have got to identify problems in this team and properly solve them. Not just sell someone because they get a half-decent offer and replace them with the same caliber of player, because that happens far too often at this club. Anyway, what do you make of Chelsea's current predicament? Yeah, how do you feel like Chelsea are going to end the season? What is the future for Enzo Maresca? Drop it down in the comment section below. Let's aim for 6,000 likes on this video once again. If you are new, of course, to the channel, make sure to subscribe. It really does help me out. It's the final video, I do believe, of 2025. Like I said in FTW, massively appreciate you guys for the support. As always, you guys have been really killing it with support in 2025. So let's go again in 2026. It's going to be bigger and better. Got some bigger videos coming for you as well, so it's going to be absolutely sick. For now, as I said, subscribe to make sure you see those. You can also follow me on social media. It is at the official FNG on Twitter and on Insta. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.